Third POV. As Mei pressed the button, the video began. Though the milliseconds in between held the rising excitement of various members of the group, like Bakugo and Setsuna, and maddening curiosity about how the teaser and name of the fighters implied the Japanese-born American hero, Godzilla, but the O changed to an A. Those curious souls included hero fanboy Izuku Midoriya and resident Americans like Melissa, Pony, and David Shield. Midoriya felt a sense of worry from the previous loud roar from the teaser that led to him swapping seats again with Ida and keeping Eri and Kuda close and staying as close as possible to Jiro. Kaiju. Wizard began the video with the word up front over a scene of a kaiju erupting from the water. The Japanese word for dash. A giant monster that destroys everything around it. Boomstick exclaimed. Setsuna could not hold her squeals any longer. Eyaha! Setsuna let out a girlish scream of delight that took the 1A students by surprise. Jiro cringed at the scream, rubbing her ears. We're not even at the video, and my ears are already getting fucked up, Jiro groaned. Sorry girl really. Setsuna quickly apologized before her fangirlish enthusiasm returned to full force. I'm just so excited. Momo noticed that the 1B students looked unfazed by Setsuna's squeal and, if anything, looked prepared with hands over their ears. Itsuka Ibra, and Aways even using their quirks to cover their ears more thoroughly with giant hands, a cocoon of vine hair and a pair of metal plates. I suppose you were expecting this to happen, Momo figured. Itsuka had removed her giant hands from her ears in time to hear Momo's words. Yep, Itsuka nodded, sighing. Tokeij's a bit of... Okay, a lot of a kaiju fan. Well, of course I would be. Tokeij exclaimed. Her eyes alit with excitement and her sharp-toothed grin. Why wouldn't I be? Kaiju are so cool. They are large giant creatures that can destroy anything around them. But some are also cool heroes like Godzilla. As Setsuna continued listing her reasons for her love of kaiju, Izuku blushed at the sight of the often cool-headed, sassy teen acting like such a fangirl. She's just like me with heroes, Izuku thought, finding such passion and excitement in her eyes beautiful to look at, as well as cute. Izuku smiled widely. Like Godzilla, the king of the monsters. Boomstick introduced the first kaiju fighter. And Gamera, the guardian of the universe, was introduced the other. Wait, Gamera is actually in this fight. That's so awesome. Setsuna exclaimed again. Oh yeah, I remember him. Izuku blinked in recognition. He's a giant turtle kaiju hero that can fly from all those movies. You don't know the half of it, Green Bean. Setsuna's grin grew wider as the ends of her mouth practically reached her blushing cheeks. Godzilla may be my favorite real-life hero, but Gamera is my favorite fictional one. Not so fictional anymore though, Yui pointed out. Now that you mentioned Godzilla, this Godzilla he's fighting looks remarkably similar, Melissa mentioned. They even have nearly the same name. I guess this is some other universe version of Godzilla, Shinso shrugged. Guess it will be quite the easy counterpart to nail. Despite being box office rivals for half a century, these two enormous creatures have never met, was noted, showing a divide between the two titular kaiju that was closed. Until today. And it should be noted that all the versions of both Godzilla and Gamera that range in the dozens, mostly the former, will be used to properly show how legendary these titans are, Boomstick noted. Interesting, Nizu muttered, rubbing his furry chin with intrigue. He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick. Boomstick introduced the two of them. And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win a death battle, was ended the intro. The first fighter truly lived up to his name, as this monster's appearance put the fear of God in all of the group's members. The monster was ginormous, towering over or meeting similarly to multiple buildings and skyscrapers. Mount Lady paled drastically at the sight of a monster that looked almost 5 times taller than her, easily. The massive monster was a lizard-like creature, with gray to pitch-black scales that armored its entire body and looked thick to be nearly impenetrable. Its legs were bulky, especially around its thighs, and its feet were 3-toed, sometimes 4-toed with sharp talons that left craters for footprints. Its arms were noticeably tinier and skinnier, making him somewhat like a T-Rex, but they looked no less menacing and powerful with its claws that tore buildings asunder. Massive, spiky plates jutted out of the creature's spine and down its tremendously long and mighty tail, the size and number often differentiating in appearance, and often glowing blue. The monster's head was easily the most distinguishable reptilian aspect of the creature, and its powerful jaw full of razor-sharp teeth and menacing eyes made even the likes of All Might shiver in absolute terror, that which all for one wished he could match. Godzilla. The year was 1954. Less than a decade after Little Boy and Fat Man had decimated Japan, began the analysis. Flinches and grimaces were shared among nearly everyone in the group, from the Japanese that read about their ancestors' provoking actions that started the very conflict that would lead to this event, to the few Americans among them whose ancestors first created the technology that now marred human existence, and were the triggermen that showed off this power to the world. The nuclear age had begun, Boomstick declared, showcasing an exploding nuke. And look where that has gotten us, David thought, reviewing human history since then and the constant threat of nuclear annihilation and extinction, and the ever-increasing race and goal to make more powerful weapons, especially with the rise of more complicated and powerful quirks. He remembered the US's latest instrument of destruction, the intercontinental missiles, Tiamat. As the United States tested their shiny new hydrogen bombs across the Pacific, one of them woke something up, was revealed, as the Monster King himself rose from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. An increasing dread was felt at both the rising figure coming from the water and the very concept and consequence proposed. Skuriunak. Godzilla's roar thundered out of the speakers. Utter shock. Awe. Fear. All three of these described what the windswept-haired members of the UA group felt. The shock of the magnitude and volume of the roar from such a terrifying creature made even the likes of All Might and Endeavor feel tiny by comparison, figuratively and literally. All was shared among some of the more impressionable members, such as Setsuna, Bakugu, and Kuta, captivated by the respect and strength that the monster demanded with its very presence, let alone its mighty, soul-stirring roar. But what every single member, whether they admitted or not, whether it was shown or not, felt was fear. From the childlike fear from Eri, the utter terror plastered on Mineta's agape face and shivering body, to even the scared, slack-jawed faces of the adults, they all shared the instinctual, primal fear of the unknown monster before their eyes. The roar from the kaiju was so loud from the speakers that some of the other UA students from kilometers away perked up like startled deer at their dorms. It took the combined effort of previously prepared 2 sets of noise-canceling earmuffs and the joined hands of Yairozu, Midoriya, and Jiro herself to cover the punk rock girl's ears and jacks or risk permanent hearing loss. Compelled by fatherly instincts and the feelings he felt stoked, Izuku swallowed the fear and terror he felt at the monster to focus on covering, with both his hands and black whip, Jiro's sensitive ears and Eri and Kuta's not fully developed ones, while also comforting the scared girl. "Are you okay, Kyoka?" Izuku asked worriedly. "Why yeah," Jiro groaned, rubbing her ears. "Just trying to shake off the ringing in my ears." "Apologies, Miss Jiro." Mizu bowed, shaking off the animalistic fear that burdened even him. "I was unaware of how loud and damaging this sudden roar would affect you." After Jiro accepted the apology, Mizu turned his sights to Mei. "Miss Hatsum, if you may be so kind and able as to lower the volume and continue to lower it, any more roaring may come from this creature?" "Why yeah," Hatsum nodded. As she followed the principal's orders, more and more eyes widened when the group saw that the device's and video's volume was only half full. "Jesus Christ," Kaminari cursed, rubbing his ears. "I'm still hearing the echo of that roar, and it was so loud at half volume." "Manly," Tetsu muttered dumbly, still recovering from the mighty roar himself. Godzilla, the radioactive rampaging savior/destroyer of Japan, Boomstick fully introduced, showing the kaiju either roaring and destroying smoking cities or shaking hands with a giant robot that Kodai found similar to her hero costume. Yui tilted her head, intrigued and confused at the similarity. Setsuna looked like a little kid in a candy store giving away free anything. The way her eyes sparkled with amazement was something that brought a smile to Midoriya's face. "Savior/destroyer?" All Might questioned, I suppose this means that Godzilla is an anti-hero of sorts, Ryukyu suggested. Most kaiju movies, like with Gamera, have the kaiju feared by the people at large, and the military trying to kill them, but ultimately end up the hero after going against an even worse kaiju, Setsuna informed. Or they're just straight-up monsters everyone has to gang up and destroy. Kaiju movies are weird, Pony rubbed her head. Screeching. Godzilla roared again as he tore apart buildings like dominoes. Yeah, I'm struggling to see the heroic appeal here, Toru said. The way this giant monster tore apart those buildings like cardboard with his massive size had Gran Torino flinch at the memory of Gigantomachia and the destruction that living disaster had brought when they captured Kurogiri. Now, Torino feels like they found a creature that was more than the giant's match. He wasn't the only one to think of the walking calamity, as Kirishima and Mina felt they were brought back to that day with the giant, remembering how a simple press of his hand caused cracks to appear on the building he cornered those girls against. Background. Height. 100 meters / 355 feet. Weight. 81,600,000 kilograms / 90,000 tons. Japanese name, Gojira. King of the monsters. Age. 65 to 252 million years. Feeds on nuclear radiation. Accidentally mutated by nukes. Somehow knows judo and boxing. A regular lizard mutated by nuclear energy, a prehistoric titan from millions of years ago, or supernatural creation born out of man's hubris and fear of nuclear power. Godzilla, or Gojira in Japanese, stands over 300 feet tall and weighs 90,000 tons. Wizard explained Godzilla's origins and stats. He is an unstoppable force of nature. Mount Lady paled again, realizing that her estimations of Godzilla being more than 5 times her height when using her quirk were rather accurate, and it terrified her. With how he pointed out 3 different possible origins to Godzilla, these may be the different variants that they said they would be mixing for this fight, Mandalay deduced. Well, one brings up the supernatural, and another seems more scientific, so pretty much, Ragdoll shrugged. And for some reason, Godzilla has made Japan his personal playground and has been stomping through it for 60 years, Boomstick stated. Couldn't he have picked on some other country? An old Japanese military man asked. The boardroom, the man was part of let out nervous laughs and chuckles, while some were depressingly unfazed. Why does it feel like our country gets the short end of the stick? Gran Torino muttered, wondering with more than 190 different countries, in 6 different continents, the odds that Japan happens to be the one where the greatest villain and hero the world had ever seen came from and called home. Godzilla's radioactive mutation leaves everything in his wake contaminated, was explained, showing the destroyed radioactive ruins of a city. Water, plants, even people. Godzilla's presence alone turns a city block completely uninhabitable. Like that noisy upstairs neighbor or people who let their dog shit in your front lawn, Boomstick joked. Izuku and Uraraka sighed. The two both experiencing their share of poor neighbors in their respective apartment complexes. This is concerning, Endeavor frowned. Should such a creature step foot into a single one of our cities, not only will the damage be catastrophic, but the fallout from this creature's presence might be unrepairable. And we would probably have no way of safely fighting this creature without exposing ourselves to such harmful radiation, Edgeshot confirmed. That's if we can even harm this monster, Fat Gum pointed out. But Godzilla does not simply walk past his enemies to destroy them, was stated, displaying the king of monsters dodging an attack from another kaiju and smacking it away with his mighty tail. Oh, so not only is this giant lizard radioactive, powerful and terrifying, it's also intelligent. Pixie Bob threw her hands up in exclamation. His strength is insane. Boomstick chuckled at the level of Godzilla's strength and showed the kaiju lift and toss a 3-headed winged golden dragon. He once lifted and threw his arch-rival Kaiser Ghidorah, who weighs 100,000 freaking tons. Ryukyu blinked, surprised at the sight of the golden-winged Hydra, and how Godzilla managed to toss it so effortlessly. That toss reminds me a lot of your judo flips, Deku, Uraraka pointed out. Thanks, Urachiko. Izuku corrected himself. Shinso had to rub his back as he remembered his fight with Midoriya back at the sports festival. Hey, quit ruining this badass monster's feats by comparing it to shitty Deku. Bakugo shouted. You're just jealous that we don't do the same for you, aren't you, Kaken? Mina teased/mocked. Bakugo had to be kept down in his seat for the 100th time. He channels this strength through his claws, teeth, tail dash, and epic gravity-defying dropkicks. Boomstick exclaimed, cutting off Wiz's listing. Godzilla roared and pumped his fist before running up, jumping, and sailing through the air on his back as he dropkicked Megalon while being held in place by the same giant robot. Bah-ha-ha-ha-ha. Kaminari and Mineta wheezed at the hilarity of the scene. Ha! Looked like something out of those old pre-Quirk era movies with those guys in rubber suits. Zero snickered. Hey, that giant robot looks a lot like your hero costume, don't you think, Yui? Suka asked. Yui tilted her head, agreeing with Itsuka's question. Hilarious abilities aside, Godzilla would not be such a legendary kaiju without some serious firepower. Wiz began again, Godzilla sparking with electricity before unleashing that in a wave against Ghidorah. He can emit atomic energy from his body for a short-range nuclear pulse. Ooh, hello, my vote. Kaminari rubbed his hands at the electricity-producing monster. Oh, great. Bakugo complained. What did I do? Kaminari asked, baffled. You jinxed it. Bakugo complained further. Almost single fighter you have voted for always ends up losing, like Raiden, Sector, Charizard, and even Cloud. Or fire his signature atomic breath, a goddamn laser beam of pure radiation. Boomstick yelled while Godzilla fired a beam of pure plasma out his mouth, while plates glowed blue and eviscerated anything it struck. That's like microwaving at least 100 balls of tinfoil. Well, give or take a few million. Wiz muttered/corrected. Setsuna's jaw, literally, falling off her head was the perfect encapsulation of the group's reaction. A scene from Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Giant Monsters All-Out Attack 2001. Played of Godzilla firing his atomic breath directly onto the army and surrounding area, tanks and buildings exploding in plumes of flames, and soldiers flying or burning, screaming. Dear God! Cementos muttered, horrified at the destruction. Even Bakugo felt that even his best explosion paled in comparison to this monster's breath by leagues above leagues. The atomic breath can melt, burn, or blow up just about anything. And you know it just can't smell good. Boomstick chuckled. A scene of a large kaiju eating a massive pile of fish. I mean, that's a lot of fish. No. Was suddenly shouted, incensed, removing the God in the displayed name of Godzilla, leaving only the name Zilla. That right there is Zilla, the bastardized and shamed American version that Toho literally bought the rights to and completely rebranded. Just to murder on screen. Wiz proved his point with Godzilla smacking the bastardized clone into the Cindy Opera House. Boomstick chuckled while Godzilla blasted Zilla and the Opera House into smithereens. Take that, America. Ay! Momo screamed, horrified. Jesus, Momo. Kyoka cringed, rubbing her ears. I already have it bad enough with the giant kaiju. I don't need something just as loud right next to me. And my apologies, Jiro. Momo quickly apologized. But that's the Cindy Opera House. One of the world's most famous and distinctive buildings and a masterpiece of architecture. It is a beacon of the performing arts. I remember how mother and father took me to a performance for my 10th birthday. Uraraka proceeded to faint at Yaoyorozu, unintentionally flaunting her rich lifestyle, only further panicking Yaoyorozu and attempting to revive the poor girl. And that was just the real Godzilla's standard atomic breath, was pointed out. Standard? Mina exclaimed, wide-eyed. You mean there's another? Abilities. Atomic breath. Spiral atomic breath. Nuclear pulse. Regenerator G1. Magnetic powers. Sharp dorsal plates. Uncanny durability. Godly strength. Can breathe underwater. Yep. Boomstick agreed, showing the titular titan laying on the ground with a giant pterodactyl on top of him before it faded, after absorbing a giant pterodactyl's soul. Okay. Ibera blinked multiple times, trying to rationalize what she just heard. And if the looks of utter confusion from the others were any indication, she wasn't alone. He gained the power to boost his breath to the red spiral ray. Boomstick finished. Godzilla firing his now red radioactive breath at a kaiju. Izuku's eyes drifted down, his aimlessly gaze drifting from his notes to his scarred hand. That kind of sounds like One for All. The ninth bearer of the quirk thought, the quirk that passed down the stored power, and now quirks and souls of its past users, making both the quirk itself and the others pass down stronger. An attack so deadly it only took a few blasts to obliterate the more powerful clone of himself, Space Godzilla, was revealed. Space Godzilla was shown as a spikier version of Godzilla with giant glowing red and white crystals on his back. Hold up, Space Godzilla. Mina perked up, super excited at the potential alien kaiju. What? Space Godzilla? Boomstick shouted, excited. Yes, Space Godzilla is a thing. Moving on, was said seriously. Oh! Boomstick pouted childishly. Oh, Mina pouted too. Disappointed they're skipping over Space Godzilla, Alien Queen? Izuku teased, grinning. Unprepared for the teasing from her crush, Mina's pink cheeks burned bright and huffed away. Shut up. Oh no! Through gasp. She's contracted the Tsundere virus from Jiro. And thus was the invisible girl saved by the combined effort of Izuku's black whip and Itsuka's giant, barricading hands. In fact, Rodden is the not only giant monster that the king has absorbed for a power boost, was continued, showing a ginormous moth kaiju. Mothra, queen of the monsters and longtime ally of Godzilla, after he destroyed her at one point, or rather multiple times. This was emphasized by multiple scenes of Godzilla destroying his would-be future ally. Ayaha! Koda screamed, turning his back to the screen, hands over his face, while rocking like a toddler. What's up him? Sen asked, scratching his head, confused. Koda is not fond of insects and arachnids, Tokoyami explained, Dark Shadow comforting the gentle giant. He has been getting better used to them though. But I don't think a giant moth in his ballpark yet, Dark Shadow commented. As Koda flinched at the mention of Mothra again, Tokoyami gave a flare at his quirk for bringing it up again. Wait, speaking of which, given that these are essentially giant animals, couldn't he be able to understand and control them with his Oni voice quirk? Shinso asked. It took the reminder that Koda was still being consoled to forget the giant moth to keep Setsuna in her chair, and not demand the shy teen to play translator and pet tamer for a kaiju she wanted. When she died, Godzilla absorbed her soul dash. Wait. Back the monster truck up. Boomstick shouted, pausing the video with a record scratch. Queen of the monsters. King of the monsters. You telling me that they... You know, Boomstick's unsaid question included two images of Godzilla and Mothra moving their faces closer to each other, with blushes on their cheeks. Thanks, I did not need to know that. Melissa sweat dropped. But isn't it still cute? Nijire cooed. A giant lizard and a giant moth making it work and becoming king and queen of all those giant terrifying lizards and insects. Koda yelped and shivered again. Oops. My bad. Ahem. When Godzilla absorbed the soul of Mothra, was continued, completely ignoring and forgetting what Boomstick implied. He obtained one of his powerful forms, Burning Godzilla. Burning Godzilla, powered by the soul of Mothra, or uranium energy from a volcanic eruption. Superheated state. Nuclear pulse. Accumulated nuclear pulse. Heat shield. Healing radiation to other kaiju. Slowly drains his life force. Burning Godzilla roared. His entire body now glowing red and gold like magma. Bakuga's jaw, metaphorically, joined the floor with Setsuna's at the sight. Endeavor and Shoto perked up at the name and then stared wide-eyed at the glowing giant lizard. The burning form was first shown in 1995's Godzilla vs. Destroya, and even then, it was so powerful, Godzilla could not control it and was destroying everything, including himself. Was continued. Now, in his modern version, however, he can activate it whenever he wants as a measure of last resort. Given the title of this form's first appearance, it would appear that Wizard and Boomstick's universe, Godzilla seems to be a piece of fiction from movies, Nizu deduced. Sounds rather similar to our world's Godzilla. David pointed out the similarly designed hero from Japan who starred in various movies before taking his craft and hero profession to America. Though I don't believe Zillo ever possessed an atomic breath like this one, Ryukyu noted. I bet if he found out about this, he'll be severely depressed with how lacking he is from this version, Miruko snarked. The burning Godzilla state can melt all buildings and structures around him in seconds, Boomstick revealed, showing burning Godzilla's heat turned skyscrapers into metal puddles. Eyes widened again and were joined by various audible gulps of fear at the sight of buildings and skyscrapers turning into piles of melted steel in literal seconds. Todoroki paled at the power displayed in front of him, recognizing such heat far more potent than anything he and his father have ever produced. The half-cold, half-hot quirk user shuddered at the thought of trying to fight this creature. He originally thought that as a giant lizard, he would be subject to the cold-blooded biology of reptiles and would be easy pickings with a good heavens-piercing ice wall. Now that the giant lizard looked like he was becoming a mini-sun, he realized it would take all he got from his ice side just to not join the buildings as a pile of goo, or worse, a pile of ashes. The melting point of steel is around 1,300 to 1,540 degrees Celsius, depending on the steel's chemical composition. That's over 2,370 to 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit, Wiz explained, as those are buildings and skyscrapers, likely using industrial steel, and it takes mere seconds for the burning form to turn them into goo. That means burning Godzilla's heat must be leagues higher. Tetsu and Hananuki were taken back to when Shoto Todoroki nearly turned Tetsu into a pile of melted steel in their joint training class session. The latter of the two let out a sigh of relief at saving his classmate from such a fate. Endeavor's eyes widened at such firepower, suddenly feeling eclipsed in his and his son's department. He realized that likely he would do would hurt Godzilla, and with the level of power, strength, and durability the king of the monster displayed and fought against, he felt that not even All Might in his prime could truly come out on top, much less alive. The burning form can be so hot, it can even shield him from laser fire at long range, can be fired off in even more powerful nuclear pulses that burned off King Ghidorah's wings and heads off, and can unleash an even more massive blast that turns everything around him into cinders. Boomstick listed off the feats, including Godzilla roaring in the scorched ruins of the city. I think that was kaiju for fuck Boston. David paled when he realized that the city that Godzilla had just eviscerated was none other than Boston, Massachusetts, home to his favorite team, the Red Sox. Godzilla's cell structure can quickly regenerate from all manner of wounds, and despite being vulnerable to man-made electricity, he possesses magnetic properties. Wiz continued down the list of Godzilla's powers. Like a lightning rod, he can attract thunderbolts from the sky and use nature's power to enhance his own abilities, or turn himself into a giant living magnet. Magnets. How do they even work? Boomstick memed while metal structures stuck to his body. So, in combination with his physical strength and durability, his radioactivity, and the burning Godzilla state, Godzilla is practically unstoppable at close range. Long-lasting exposure to radiation can lead to cancerous side effects if not death, so any short-range combat hero would be ill-advised. And he is 5 times Mount Lady size and taller than even Godzilla and Ryukyu in her dragoon form, so there would be no hero alive that could fight it head-on and survive other than Dark Shadow at full power. But then Godzilla's burning state and his atomic breath could destroy him with the brightness of their attacks, let alone firepower. He could resist Kaken's explosions, Endeavor's, and Todoroki's fire and ice easily. Aoyama wouldn't be able to hit him in his burning state, and I doubt even a full 100% punch would cause serious damage with his listed regeneration. The only people that could harm him perhaps would be Momo, Nijire, Amajiki, and Kaminari, unless their quirks wouldn't count as man-made. But Momo could create various traps and devices to exploit Godzilla's weakness, and Amajiki might be able to transform into a similar creature if he can consume a piece of Godzilla's body, like his scales. Asterisk mutter mutter mutter. Asterisk. Sweat-dropped, deadpanned expressions were cast toward the unaware verdant-haired teenager as he muttered and wrote in his notebook at speeds that were pretty much incomprehensible now. While Nijire was flattered, as well as Yoirozu, Amajiki, and Kaminari, that Midoriya believed that they could harm such a behemoth, even the third-year girl was having trouble understanding him and went to snap him out of his muttering. Well, believe it or not, that isn't the weirdest thing that Godzilla can do, Boomstick pointed out. If Big G needs to get somewhere quick, he bends over, charges up, and does this. Comical music played whilst Godzilla bent over and fired his atomic breath, slowly lifting him off the ground and then propelling himself through the air. "I am dead inside," Aizawa stated, his shoulders slumping in a new state of depression. His, admittingly, comical response and timing were enough to set off laughter in half the group. Howin, and with, "Shouldn't that breath?" "I quit," Momo resigned, saving her remaining brain cells from such a fruitless endeavor. Even Ida and Izuku had sparks coming out of their malfunctioning brains. "Well, at least Japan is creative," Wiz questioned. "That's one word for it," Vlad King sweat dropped. "Wait, can that even happen?" Boomstick also questioned. "For these three's sakes, hopefully," Azui croaked, looking at Izuku, Momo, and Ida. Scaling to the present, to actually lift his body means his atomic breath must have a force of over 328 trillion psi. Was calculated. The math displayed of having to lift 90,000 tons and converting the psi into 2.2 quintillion n/m squared. That's the equivalent of 1 trillion riot control fire hoses. Enough to wrap around the Earth 38,000 times. The only thing Boomstick could say in response was, "Damn!" "Ha!" Ragdoll chuckled. "The more you know." Strengths and feats. 49 wins, 11 losses, 8 to 9 ties. Survived and escaped a black hole. Regenerated from a beating heart. Battled Rodden over 12 hours. Survived the Absolute Zero cannon. Lifted and threw Kaiser Ghidorah. Matched Thor's strength. Defeated 10 monsters in a row in Final Wars. Earned title of King of the Monsters after destroying King Ghidorah. Won twice against King Kong. Godzilla has over 50 known victories, largely due to his insane durability, Boomstick announced. He's fallen into a volcano, survived a black hole, and tanked a meteorite point blank. Without a scratch. The final feat showed the complete ruins of the meteor's collision, including a large crater, with Godzilla standing comically in the middle, unscathed. "I'm sorry, he survived a what?" Uraraka exclaimed at the latter two feats. 13 paled inside her suit. Her plan to disintegrate the King of the Monsters with her black hole quirk just shot out the window. Weaknesses. Sensitive to light. Relatively slow. Somewhat clumsy due to size. Lost to Mothra and King Kong twice. Gills are a weak spot. Vulnerable to strong surges of unnatural electricity. Killed by Oxygen Destroyer twice and Mechagodzilla 2. But despite popular belief, Godzilla is not invincible, was pointed out. His regeneration takes time. His speed is lacking, and despite having 2 brains, one in his skull and the other where his tail meets his torso, he's pretty darn clumsy. Both a diagram of Godzilla's biology and Godzilla tripping were displayed. "He has 2 brains," Kaminari exclaimed, looking grossed out. "That's twice more than yours, jamming yay," Jiro snarked, earning a middle finger from the blonde. Actually, a lot of creatures have multiple brains," Koda said, shaking off his fear of Mothra for now. "Octopuses, sea cockroaches, G-grasshoppers, leeches, even humans. Though the latter if you count both the 2 hemispheres as separate." "Where were you on that one, ass brain?" Boomstick joked. "I think we just found a new insult for Bakugu," Mineta said. "Guess you do have one at least, brain tart." Bakugu snarked. "Well, at least you proved it." Zero patted a comically depressed Mineta. He officially lost a fight in a round against King Kong on 2 separate occasions, and he's even died in 4 separate films, and nearly did in a 5th, was explained. He even had to fight with King Kong after a mutual agreement, against Mechagodzilla after being weakened in his previous fights. So, he isn't at all invincible, Melissa said. And he has been beaten by both a giant gorilla and a giant mech version of himself? I'm sorry, Mel. I don't think you are understanding that there is a Mecha Godzilla. May's zoom eyes lasered back into the machine and blasted off for it. No, you don't. Izuku fired Black Whip and stopped her progress. The keyword was stopped as her fervent energy kept her in place, despite Izuku's strength. Heave! Itsuka yelled as she, Jirota, Sato, and Mirio joined in pulling May back, slowly but surely. Heave! But Godzilla's victories definitely outweigh his failures, Boomstick noted. Before the Mechagodzilla fight, he had beaten Kong, and the King of the Monsters has destroyed King Ghidorah multiple times, and it usually takes multiple kaiju to get one over on him. Oh yeah, almost forgot that King Kong apparently exists in this world too, Mount Lady pointed out. And apparently far bigger than he normally is to stand on equal footing to Godzilla, Midnight noted. There's a good reason they call him the King of the Monsters, Boomstick declared. Schuriongt. Godzilla roared out to the heavens, standing atop a scorched hill while multiple kaiju bowed to the king. Manly! Kirishima and Tetsu exclaimed at the sight of the kingly titan. And just when one loud roar ends, another more obnoxious one takes its place. Jiro flinched, not at all pleased that she took her earmuffs off when the kaiju finished roaring, only to get her ears blasted by the two hardheads. The King of the Monsters drew various opinions from the students and adults. While the monster was indeed terrifying enough to leave a spot on their nightmare list, they had no qualms about how the kaiju was nearly unstoppable, and that any fighter made to fight against him would have to be just as, if not more, ridiculously insane as him. Setsuna was practically vibrating in her seat. Not just because of one of her new favorite fighters thus far, but because she knew who was up next, and it couldn't bear to take another second of waiting. Compared to the likes of Godzilla, the second fight seemed lackluster in comparison, but its size and appearances were still enough to be terrifying to most of the group. Compared to the dinosaur design of Godzilla, this mostly green kaiju's appearance resembled more of a turtle. Most of his body, dark green and black, was covered in a large, thick shell, spikes mostly jutting at the shell's sides and the stomach layer of the shell segmented, looking like it could open up. Poking out of the holes, his arms and legs were shorter than this DB opponent but were collectively bulkier, with sharp claws and talons, thick, dark green scales, and a shorter, more normal tail. The kaiju's head looked more plated and more reptilian than Godzilla's, with two tusks jutting out the sides of his wide jaw, razor-sharp fangs, and piercing green eyes. Gamera. The year was 1965, the apex of the space race, was started. Technology was advancing further and faster than ever before, but no one could have anticipated the bioengineered marvel hidden beneath the waves. As was finished the intro, a reptilian head poked out of the recently made hole in the ocean floor. Just like Godzilla, Ryukyu said. Though, instead of being woken up or mutated by nuclear weaponry, this one seemed woken up by just an unfortunately poor choice crashing. Eons ago, the ancient people of Atlantis learned how to construct life and foolishly decided to play God. Was continued, displaying a barren island that looked rather similar to a turtle, before showing an image of the prehistoric ancient city of legends and an explosion of energy. Atlantis! Reiko gasped in wonder. The mythological ancient city that was lost to the ocean. Well, I guess this video confirmed it existed, Itsuka said. In that world, anyway. Ibera huffed at the mention of the Atlanteans daring to play God and mess with something as sacred as life itself. But instead of creating something safe like a dog or a bunny, they created giant, flying, laser-shooting murder birds, Boomstick declared, showing the aforementioned murder birds firing lasers everywhere. I'm sorry, I'm going need you to run that by me again. Mount Lady's eyes blinked on her emotionally unchanged, smiling face. They made what? And I thought we were creative. Ryukyu referred to as calling them creative after Godzilla's comical flying feat. I'm going to guess that giant birds plus lasers plus murder equals goodbye Atlantis, Miruko joked. Surprise, surprise, they couldn't be controlled. And they turned 100% of Atlantis into oceanfront property, Boomstick revealed. So, I I guess that's the secret of what happened to Atlantis, Pixie Bob shrugged. Not an act of God or random powerful earthquake, but giant birds. I guess. Mandalay sweat dropped. So, what was their solution to counter these giant destructive monsters? Wiz asked the right question. Why, another giant destructive monster, of course. Fight fire with fire, I guess, Mirio chuckled. Landing and destroying all around him. Gamera roared. Mwawa! There he is. Setsuna grinned, excited. Thank you, Jiro muttered to Mei, who had turned down the volume for Gamera's roar. You got it, ears. Mei called out. So, Gamera exists in our world too? Ida asked. Tokage clearly knows about him already. Only in kaiju movies, Mina answered. But I guess like Pokemon and Mega Man. He exists in some alternate universe out there. Background. Height. 80 meters / 262.5 feet. Weight. 9 million kilograms / 10,000 tons. Origin. Atlantean bioengineering. Age. Up to 150 million years. Feeds on fire, plasma, and mana. More intelligent than most humans. A skilled gymnast. Known as the Guardian of the Universe and friend to all children. Enter Gamera, Guardian of the Universe and friend to all children. Was fully introduced. Hurry, let's go. One kid frightfully exclaimed. He won't harm us. Another kid calmed the other down. Gamera doesn't hurt people. He likes us. I suppose with a title like that, he is far more friendly than Godzilla. All Might scratched at his cheek. What kind of stupid title is that? Kuga yelled. That sounds incredibly anticlimactic. Oh, screw you, Tokage yelled back. It makes perfect sense with how he is characterized. What has this devolved into? Edgeshot shook his head, exasperated. Just relax and enjoy the ride. Miruko patted the ninja hero's back rather hard. Friend to all children? Boomstick asked incredulously. That's a terrible title. How about Gamera, the flying, fire-breathing ninja turtle of doom? See, at least he has some sense. Bakugu exclaimed. You say that about a man who hunts for squirrels by punching trees and firing a minigun, Tokoyami pointed out. That's actually not far off, Wiz admitted. Wait, really? Sato blinked in surprise. For a 260-foot, 10,000-ton turtle, Gamera is quite agile, Wiz explained, showing Gamera spinning around on a horizontal bar before flipping through the air and landing on his feet. And he sticks it. Boomstick announced dramatically as Gamera thrust his arms out. He looked like a gymnast, Cozy Eye snickered. His gymnastic feat earned him the perked-up smiles and grins from Mina, Miruko, Azui, and Izuku, especially impressed when it came to a 250-plus tall monster turtle. Abilities: Fire Breath, Plasma Fireballs, Accelerated Healing, Mana Manipulation, Flight, Up Speed Mach 3, Vanishing Plasma Fist, Ultimate Plasma Mana Cannon. His arsenal includes 2 huge tusks, twin elbow spikes, and a fire breath so strong it can be used underwater, Boomstick listed. Despite being, fire. Can that even happen? Kominari scratched his head. Fire needs only 3 things to ignite: fuel, oxygen, and heat, Endeavor answered. The fuel would be whatever organs are inside Gamera's body, and given that the creature can breathe both on land and underwater, he must also provide the oxygen to overcome the cooling of the water. And the level of heat the monster is displaying must be immense, most likely plasma. Technically, it's highly concentrated plasma, the 4th state of matter, was corrected. The hottest plasma ever created by man exceeded 3.6 million degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than the surface of the sun. Gamera's fireballs can burn through practically anything. Wiz's words were evidenced by Gamera shooting a fireball at a building, and then there was no more building. Looks like you were right, number 1, Miruko snickered. And when he's not spitting hot fire, he fucking eats it. Boomstick chuckled. Gamera shone swallowing a stream of fire. Excuse me. Ryukyu did a double take. It's true. A fiery 4-course meal can quickly heal and re-energize him. Wiz agreed. Gamera absorbed an entire massive plume of fire into him. Mwawa-awa. If Gamera can consume fire, then Bakugo, Todoroki, and Endeavor can't attack it or risk healing Gamera if they ever fought. Izuku fell into another muttering spiral. And with his plasma breath, he can easily blast and melt through Todoroki's ice and maybe even Cementos's quirk. As for how it would do against Godzilla, he could probably breathe the fire from the destruction his atomic breath creates. But maybe not the atomic breath itself if it's simply radiation and dash. Ugh, that's let me at him. Bakugo roared. Whatever patience he had ran out with the unintended diss from Midoriya, and tried charging at Midoriya to snap him out. No, you don't. Nijire yelled, Mirio, and Amajiki pulling Bakugo away while Eri once more pinched herself to snap Midoriya out of fatherly concern. Endeavor managed to perceive through Midoriya's mutterings, as well as Todoroki, the latter finally getting used to his best friend's quirky trait. The two of them naturally agreed that their quirks would probably be useless against Gamera if the turtle monster ever existed and went on a rampage. It chafed at the flame hero that both of these colossal threats could pose a serious threat to Japan. Should they show up at all through the multiverse, would be unaffected by him, the new #1 hero that was tasked with keeping all his country's civilians safe from threats like these. I'd imagine All Might would have better luck, Endeavor bitterly thought. Naturally, as a giant turtle monster, he can retract his limbs and head into his shell for extra defense, Boomstick continued. Kirishima and Tetsu quickly grew grins at the word defense, their vote being quickly won for the friend of all children. As Gamera tucked his limbs and head into his shell, jet fire spewed out of the shell holes, started spinning in circles, and then took to the sky. And then fire rocket jets out of the holes and freaking fly. What the fuck is this? Boomstick cried out in complete shock. Cue wide eyes and dropped jaws. He looks like a goddamn UFO, Mineta exclaimed. Ahahaha. Setsuna burst out laughing after waiting to see their reactions. Oh, you should see your faces. They were priceless. And why can't my turtle do that? Boomstick whined as Gamera spun and flew through the air. Someday, Mr. Snappy, someday. Mr. Snappy. Uraraka giggled at the cute nickname for Boomstick's turtle. I'd imagine this be why Boomstick was so averse to the TMNT Battle Royal. Shui asked. Perhaps, Jiro shrugged. Mwah. Gamera roared while flying and slashing at a kaiju above the clouds. Okay, that is sick. Kamakiri grinned, inspiration lighting up in his brain at a spinning blade attack he could perform. Gamera can fly at speeds breaching Mach 3 over 2200 miles per hour, was reported, math shown on screen, with an extra conversion displayed of 1021 meters per second. That's faster than the world record holding S-71 Blackbird. That record was broken a long time ago, David muttered, thinking of the jets he helped design for Stars and Stripes military team. Bakugo felt through his twitching grin the temptation to exclaim how badass Gamera was, the only things holding him back being the previous insult of his title and his bias toward Godzilla. But how the hell does he know where he's going, and more importantly, how does he not puke his guts out? Boomstick asked the important questions. I'd imagine that he houses a resistance to his spinning and holds a similar way of seeing like Sonic does whenever he spin dashes, Momo suggested, looking through Izuku's notes on Sonic the Hedgehog. The Atlanteans built Gamera using mana, an ethereal energy force connecting all things, places, and people, was explained. Everything has a finite pool of mana, which can be measured using a Sega Dreamcast. But it still can't play DVDs, Boomstick sighed. Wow, that is so old, Melissa whispered, half amazed and the other in disbelief at such old technology. I actually have one in my garage, May mentioned. And I agree with Boomstick, it does not play DVDs. Moving back onto the topic of mana, it is rather similar to the concept of ki from Goku's and Vegeta's world, Jirota mentioned. Or the Force in Luke Skywalker's world, Shoda also mentioned. I suppose that most of these worlds have some underlying cosmic or magical force that connects all life together. Almost poetic, really. If so, I wonder what ours would be, Honanuki muttered. Revelry in the dark. Tokoyami, Cozy Eye, and Reiko all muttered. You know, I had a feeling they would say that, Rin deadpanned. A person's mana is dependent on how much influence and authority they possess over others, was detailed. As Gamera literally holds the world's fate in his claws, his mana levels are off the charts. Quite the fascinating concept, Mizu said. If that is the case, would my mana levels be high because of my position as principal of UA? And if so, would my mana levels drop if I resigned or retired from my position? Another potential quandary would be All Might, Power Loader added. Back in Toshinori's prime as the symbol of peace, I'd imagine he would have enormous amounts of mana that faded over time to his retirement. Perhaps, All Might frowned, suddenly feeling rather despondent over his retired lifestyle, without one for all in his veins and feeling aimless in his purpose. If such a hypothetical situation were true, then I believe Toshi here still would have some abundant levels of mana. David jumped in, patting his oldest friend on his back. You're still pretty important to a great many people, right, Toshi? All Might was taken aback by Dave's words, but they were exactly what he needed. Looking over to see Midoriya smiling at him, joined by Melissa, All Might smiled back. I may not be the symbol of peace I was anymore. I may not be a hero or have one for all anymore, but I'm far from without a purpose. All Might thought, Inko's smiling face joining the two children. They are my purpose. Keeping the safe and happy just by being here. Training the students to be the next generation of heroes. And training young Midoriya to take my place. That is my purpose. And I will accomplish it till my dying breath. All Might turned back to his best friend. The retired pro smiled and nodded. Dave nodded and smiled back warmly. Gamera can manipulate his mana in combat, which is useful when you've lost your arm and need to give your enemy a kaiju-sized falcon punch, Boomstick noted. While Gamera lost an arm, the kaiju manipulated his man to form the vanishing plasma fist and struck Iris, creating a massive explosion that took the monster with it. Fuck yeah! Boomstick yelled out. Manly! Kirishima and Tetsu explained. Todoroki looked at his left arm, flexing his fingers, imagining performing the same move. I have less experience and creativity with my left side than I do my right, Todoroki thought, bitterly reminded of his earlier stubbornness over it. Perhaps this would be a start. Ha! Is that where you got your vanishing fist ultimate move from, number one? Miruko teased, grinning ear to ear. Drop it, Endeavor growled. Good enough. Miruko took that as her answer. Overhearing, Todoroki's sweat dropped, slightly dejected from unknowingly about to copy his father. Maybe I could use some help later. And if Gamera ever runs low on mana, he can summon more from the earth itself, was added. Absorbing mana from around the earth, Gamera gathered the energy into him. Mwawara! He roared, his chest opening up and firing the ultimate plasma mana cannon to completely vaporize Legion. I think he got him, Boomstick quipped. While Setsuna laughed like an excited madwoman, Bakugo slobbered over Gamera's firepower, his resistance being lowered gradually. Gamera's ability to absorb the Earth's mana could come useful in his fight against Godzilla, should he ever come in a pinch, Shoji noted. It's also rather similar to Goku absorbing the ki from the sun during his battle with Superman. Strengths and feats. 16 wins, 3 losses, 2 ties. Famous steadfast determination. Plasma fire trumps the Tsar bomb. Can jump hundreds of feet high. Survived city leveling explosion. Blew up a star destroyer, no joke. Survived an orbital re-entry with a crash landing. Gamera is fast enough to catch a missile going Mach 10, capable of flying through outer space, and tough enough to survive a nuclear explosion which leveled the entire city of Sendai. Boomstick listed Gamera's feats. Seeing footage of this alternate Sendai, a city that many here had visited at some point, getting destroyed so easily made them pale in horror. Of the group, Nijire, Jirota, Korwaro, and Koda all lived in the neighboring prefectures of Miyagi, where Sendai was, and thus witnessing such a catastrophic destruction of a city so close to home gave them all shivers. As Sendai is about 152 miles across, this explosion must have yielded nearly 112 megatons of force, was calculated. Jesus! Midnight cursed. That seems rather similar to Godzilla surviving that meteorite, Snipe noted. But the difference in power could be how much damage the two sustained by comparison, Ectoplasm replied. In Godzilla's case, he survived without so much as a scratch on him. I think the important piece of information in this statement was that Gamera was tough enough to survive the explosion, Cementos pointed out. It implies that Gamera suffered some damage but was tough enough to survive, compared to Godzilla surviving with no visible damage. Gamera has a fierce will to fight, Boomstick said. No matter how much pain he's in, he'll keep pushing forward for the win. Izuku smiled, inspired by the giant kaiju, and could see why Setsuna liked him so much. And he's not just determined. He's actually quite brilliant, was added. He tactically seeks to exploit enemy weaknesses and is apparently smart enough to repair an alien spacecraft. This was proven with Gamera somehow places the two pieces of an alien saucer together. He does machines, Boomstick chuckled. Okay, this is like that He-Man repairing things by just magically pasting them together. Sin threw his hands up. What do both of them have, a Waze quirk or something? I think he might have just welded the ship together with his fire breath, Waze suggested. Sounds like if he did that, he would most likely destroy the ship rather than fix it, Cozy Eye replied. While they argued, Melissa and May smiled at how intelligent and, apparently, tech-savvy enough for a giant monster. Weaknesses. Underside of the shell is weaker than its top. Relies on human connection to maintain power. Prefers a winning through retreating strategy. Puts the Earth's safety above his own. Vulnerable to his own plasma. But despite his intelligence, he is not infallible, was noted, showing Gamera getting pierced by his underside. Gamera's supposedly impenetrable defenses have been pierced before. The underside of a turtle's shell is often weaker than the upper part, so it isn't all that surprising, Koda noted. And remember, Gamera is explicitly the guardian of Earth, which does not necessarily include humanity, was pointed out. In fact, Gamera fears mankind may one day become the Earth's greatest enemy. Ibera sighed, unfortunately agreeing with the giant kaiju given humanity's rather lackluster care for the environment. Though Gamera's care for the Earth and nature earned him a few points in her book. I knew he sounded too good to be true, Boomstick sighed, disappointed. He's a hippie turtle. You mean like Crush from Finding Nemo? Toru asked. Ooh, I love that turtle, Mina squealed. First you were like whoa, and then you were like WHOA, and then you were like whoa. Mina mimicked the stoner turtle's quote. And yet Gamera has a strange fondness for children, was added. Eri and Kuda perked up at that, smiling happily at the kaiju helping and being nice to kids like them. Gamera. Gamera. Boomstick began to sing. He will bring kids to his van. Touch them like no other can. Please don't tell on Gamera. What is he talking about, Papa? Eri curiously asked. She and Kuta looked at the others and saw everyone dead silent, some trying to contain their laughter, others rather appalled like Ida and Yaoyorozu. Eri tilted her head curiously when she saw Auntie Mori and Grunkle Zashi keep Grunkle from wrapping his neck with his scarf. When she turned back at her papa, Izuku was pale as a sheet of paper and stumbling over what to say. Boomstick was just being silly, Izuku stuttered out, sweat rolling down his forehead. But if you ever see a weird van and a man trying to get you to come over, run the other way, okay? Okay. Sure. Eri and Kuta said, the white-haired girl innocently back to cheerful, while Kuta just shrugged, not realizing or caring about what had Deku so sweaty over. Izuku sighed, thanking whatever entity was watching over them that the two were so innocent and obedient. Izuku felt a hand on his shoulder, turning to see Momo's proud and happy smile. You did good, Izuku, Momo nodded. Most parents would react loudly or dramatically in their fear. Izuku's cheeks turned red but smiled back. I learned from the best. Izuku smirked back. Like our classes, Mama Momo. Momo's head immediately turned bright red and let out an adorable squeak. Izuku! Momo whined, lightly slapping Midoriya's shoulders in retribution, only made worse by Izuku's delightful laughter. Eri turned back to see the two act and made her smile delightfully. Yep, definitely like a mama and papa, Eri sighed wistfully, hoping to be able to call Miss Momo and the other girls her mama, proudly and openly. No, really, Boomstick added. Actually, he sacrificed his life to save children on multiple occasions, was pointed out seriously. Even used his ultimate self-destruct move, all for the safety of innocent children. Oh, that's pretty cool, Boomstick admitted. If that drunken idiot were here, I'd slap the shit out of him, Setsuna grumbled, pissed off that Boomstick, joke or not, would dare insinuate Gamera, one of her favorite kaiju, to be anything like a pedophile. Mwah, Gamera roared. Okay, pedophile jokes aside, that giant turtle's actually kind of cool, Kirishima grinned. Yeah, like how he flew like a Beyblade across the sky and slashed at that weird giant octopus or whatever, Tetsu said. So manly. Gamera did make a more favorable impression of the group of heroes and hero hopefuls than the king of the monsters. Sure, the scenes of him causing massive destruction weren't exactly easily excused or made light of, but Gamera's more noble goals, purpose, and more human characteristics warmed most up to the giant, destructive kaiju. Alright, the combatants are set, was declared. Let's end this debate once and for all. It's time for a death battle, Boomstick yelled out. As the video paused for the device to scan for counterparts, the group voted. For the King of the Monsters, Godzilla's most notable votes came from Bakugo, the explosive teen firm in his belief that the King of the Monsters was the more destructive fighter. His thoughts shared by Endeavor, especially after the display that was burning Godzilla, Mount Lady, for Godzilla's greater size and air of terrifying majesty, and Kuda, who simply found Godzilla the more badass of the two. Kaminari also voted for Godzilla based on his firepower, specifically the nuclear pulse and his lightning-powered abilities. And Godzilla's atomic breath, both its firepower and the hilarity of his flight with it, won over Nijire. The Titanic Kaiju's survivability feats, mostly surviving a black hole and a meteorite, won him votes from Uraraka and 13. His feats defeating other giant kaiju, like the three-headed King Ghidorah, won Ryukyu's vote, and his size, strength, and physique won over Amajiki. His surprising intelligence and ferocity eventually had Momo vote for him. His more brute force style of fighting won Kamakiri, whilst Aizawa saw the Kaiju King's style to be more rationally eliminating threats before they get away and find a way to exploit a victory out of perceived weaknesses. And Gamera's votes, those that were made special mention, included Setsuna, from an obvious bias of her longer-known favorite kaiju, Izuku, who found Gamera more relatable, heroic, cool, and perhaps slightly biased in favor of Setsuna's line of reasoning. And Eri found the giant turtle cuter and more approachable than the more intimidating Godzilla. While torn between two different powerful beams of power, Aoyama voted for Gamera and his more similar ultimate plasma mana cannon, and Kirishima and Tetsu ultimately chose Gamera, believing the turtle to have the greater defenses by comparison. His more analytical fighting style and his own firepower earned him Todoroki's vote, and his intelligent nature, as well as his fixing a spaceship, got him votes from May and Melissa. His gymnastic and flight capabilities got him votes from Mina, Miruko, and Tokoyami, and Gamera's title as Guardian of the Earth and his care for the planet had Shiozaki vote for the kaiju. Multiversal counterparts detected. The device finished its scanning. Godzilla. Multiversal counterpart. Error. Unable to verify counterpart. Wait, what? Mount Lady shook her head, confused. How? I thought it was a slam dunk vote for Godzilla. They almost share the freaking name and appearance. Multiple incarnations of subject, some of varying origins. Outside of current counterpart verification. Update required. Update. May bling. From the message that Wizard and Boomstick left, it did imply that they sent the device off in a rush before it could fall into their government's hands. Power Loader reasoned. Perhaps it wasn't entirely finished. Perhaps, Mizu nodded. And recall their words at the beginning of this video, that they would be using multiple incarnations of the fighters, yet they made mention of Godzilla being the most prevalent of this treatment. You say that Gamera could have a counterpart with fewer versions analyzed compared to Godzilla? Endeavor asked. I'd imagine we will receive that answer right about now, Mizu said. Gamera. Multiversal counterpart. Izuku Midoriya. Greenie. Izuku only had that loud cry as a warning before he was wrapped up in a hug from an overexcited Setsuna. You just made Gamera 10 times better. My favorite fellow Greenette is my favorite kaiju. Isn't that just destiny or what? Ibra rolled her eyes at Setsuna's blatant advances, only slightly jealous that the title of Setsuna's favorite Greenette was taken from her by Midoriya. Azui croaked, suddenly wondering whether she would be Midoriya's favorite Greenette or Setsuna. After fighting off the blush and stutter that came up with Setsuna's assets pressing onto his chest, Izuku chuckled, smiling nervously. I suppose, Izuku replied. Okay, how many counterparts does that make for Midoriya? Zero sighed, disappointed. 50 or something. Feels like it, Mineta grumbled, slightly peeved that his only counterparts so far were an old guy and a frog. But I think this is his 17th one. Can't believe I'm feeling jealous over Midoriya being a giant turtle. Kirishima chuckled, rubbing his neck. Well, cheer up guys, Mirio spoke up. After all, anything to get Midoriya out of his shell. I swear I think my ears would rather take the monster roars than any more of these shitty puns. Kyoka rubbed her forehead. After a brief moment of waking Mirio up from another hit to the head from the almighty frying pan, the video began again. The scene opened on a cloudy, dark day over a large metropolitan city. While cars went about their day, inside the city or on the long white bridge leading in and out of it, Godzilla's plates emerged from the water outside the city. Oh Jesus, wouldn't that just be terrifying? Mineta shivered, hugging his short legs. Just looking out into the water to see those plates slowly come out. You barely get a chance to realize what is happening before suddenly dash. Mineta! A whispered voice hissed at him at the same time a black tendril covered his mouth. The purple pervert looked to see his green-haired classmate glaring at him, gesturing toward an uncomfortable Eri and Kuta, whose ears the greenette covered. Realizing that the surrogate father was trying to get him to stop giving his surrogate kids nightmares, Mineta raised his hands in surrender and nodded, only then having the tendril removed from his mouth. In a sudden rise out of the water, Godzilla, in all his terrifying presence, roared. Strionakt. Jiro pressed tightly on her earmuffs while May lowered the volume. Yet that was just enough for her to hear the king of the monsters roared as to a level that the rest of the group would hear normally. A squad of tanks mobilized and lined up by the bay as Godzilla approached the city. The tanks fired upon the kaiju. Small explosions, compared to the behemoth's size, littered his black-scaled hide uselessly. Godzilla stomped on the ground, the earth cracking under his foot and sending the tanks flying away instantly. At least, they probably got the realism of city and government responding to a kaiju by sending in the military, Ryukyu said. Yeah, but if those shells actually did some damage to him and that's what makes him lose the fight, I'm going to be pissed, Miruko warned. Godzilla made his way into the city, proceeding to knock over a building down. He swiped in time to knock away a missile coming at him. Although, what would be the reason for such an alpha predator to lay waste to a random metropolis? Reiko asked. Remember what Boomstick referred to Godzilla, dear Yanagi, Monoma said in his usual pompous voice. He is a savior at times, but a destroyer he also may be. Tokoyami bristled at Monoma, calling to Reiko as dear, as if he had any right to speak so suavely to a spooky goddess out of his league. Shri Ria Noant. Godzilla roared again to the sky. Meanwhile, from behind Gamera's spinning shell flew past him, before hovering across from the rampaging kaiju. Rocket fumes shot out of his shell as Gamera descended. Landing roughly on the ground, Gamera let out his own roar. Mwemowaha! Here we go! Setsuna cackled, rubbing her hands in delight. You are taking far too much enjoyment of two giant monsters fighting whilst destroying a city of likely millions, Ibera pointed out. Simulation of a city full of millions of non-existent people, Setsuna pointed out, grin and sight toward the screen unchanged. And who cares? Let them fight. The two traded roars again as they stood against each other. Fight. Godzilla began approaching Gamera, who bent down, picking up a small building, and throwing at the approaching kaiju. Smart, Vlad King nodded. He's testing Godzilla's defenses by throwing a building at him without resorting his fireballs off the bat. But why not use the fireballs, especially when they're more powerful? Kozai asked. The logic could stand that Gamera does not know whether Godzilla would be immune to the fireballs, Ectoplasm answered. And he likely uses up mana with his fireballs, so he is conserving his energy. Godzilla smashed through the building, unfazed, and continued his approach. Gamera brought his head back and unleashed a stream of fire breath that covered the entirety of Godzilla's form. There's the firepower, Kanoko cheered. After the building didn't put a scratch on Godzilla, now Gamers was trying to slow Godzilla's approach and test his defenses with his fire breath, Todoroki nodded. After a flash of light, the fire dispersed with Godzilla, unscathed and right in front of Gamera. The Guardian of the Universe swiped at Godzilla with both of his claws, striking the kaiju back. The turtle kaiju bent down only to bring his head swiftly back up, striking Godzilla with a swift headbutt. That's the spirit, Tsuna cheered. A quick and good 3-hit combo. Come on, you giant hulking lizard, Bakugo yelled out. Smash the turtle's shell to pieces. Recovering quickly, Godzilla rushed at Gamera, grabbed onto him by his shell, and began to slam him into a nearby building twice. When the building crumbled the second time, Godzilla turned his kaiju adversary till he grappled his arm, lifted him over his shoulder, and tossed Gamera over him, the smaller kaiju knocking into another smaller building on his stomach. Now that's more like it, Bakugo roared in delight. Hey, there's the judo throw, Uraraka pointed out, smiling over at Izuku. Surprised you didn't vote for Godzilla over that, Deku? I can't just vote on him just for that similar fighting style alone, Deku shrugged, before flashing his own teasing smile at Uraraka. If anything, that's more like your cool gunhead-style martial arts, Ochiko. Barf. Quit and save your flirting for later. You nerdy lovebirds. Bakugo yelled, eyes comically red. Deku and Uraraka snapped back to the screen, the two blushing madly as they came to their senses. Godzilla backed up a bit, rearing his head back whilst it and its dorsal fins glowed whitish blue. The lizard kaiju fired his atomic breath upon Gamera directly. Then Godzilla fired the breath attack again, upon more of the city surrounding Gamera, consuming the area into a flaming wreck. Sturioonyekt. Godzilla roared in the devastation, assuming victory. Jesus Christ! Mineta exclaimed in absolute fear of the monster. Yep, that turtle's cooked. Kominari grinned. Are you sure about that, Jaminye? Jiro raised an eyebrow at him. The fire suddenly began to dissipate as it swirled around the now standing Gamera, absorbing the fire into him. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Nijire tilted her head. Damn it. Tape Duncehead's mouth shut before he jinxes Godzilla any further, Bakugo yelled, rushing and restraining Kominari for Zero to tape his struggling mouth shut. Glowing in the aftermath of his fire absorption, the Earth's Guardian fired off a fireball onto Godzilla's head, stunning the titanic kaiju. Gamera fired 2 more in quick succession fireballs, all striking Godzilla's face, staggering him back as he fell onto his knees from the onslaught. With such amount of fire consumed, Gamera was able to fire multiple fireballs in quick succession, likely from an excess of mana, Endeavor analyzed. And with how they were able to stagger Godzilla back to his knees, they must have been quite powerful, Edgeshot nodded. Godzilla got right back and let out a short growl, still willing and able to fight. Striking the ground with his tail twice, Godzilla jumped and sailed toward Gamera with a physics-defying dropkick, his tail dragging across the ground. He's actually trying to drop kick him. Pixie Bob cackled. Honestly, this shouldn't be possible with his tail dragging across the ground like that, Midnight reasoned, suppressing a giggle. Who cares? This is both hilarious and awesome, Mike exclaimed. Present Mike, Jiro groaned, pressing on her earmuffs again. Sorry, little listener. Yamada apologized. Gamera attempted to back up from such a sudden and fast-approaching attack, but to no avail. Godzilla struck and then landed on him, bringing him down by his massive weight. Godzilla jumped off him, turning in mid-air before slamming him into the ground again. He's using his larger size and weight to his advantage, Momo deduced. He is probably trying to bury him further into the ground so he can't escape. Godzilla roared into the air, lifting his foot up and prepared to stomp down on his fallen foe again. In response, Gamera retracted his head into his shell, Godzilla striking the ground instead. He's using his anatomy to avoid Godzilla's attack even while unable to move, Koda smiled. Turtle power, Kirishima and Tetsu exclaimed. Godzilla turned his head in confusion. He began to back up when Gamera's shell began to light up with his thrusters and spin, hovering up into the air. Godzilla roared after Gamera while he flew across the sky. Losing sight of him, Godzilla was struck from behind by the spinning shell of the flying kaiju. Godzilla roared as the rain began to pour and lightning struck down in the background. His dorsal fins glowing, Godzilla fired his atomic breath at beam his flying opponent multiple times, all of which failed to hit the aerial target. Gamera is using his greater speed and flight to his advantage, Tokoyami nodded, approving. While Godzilla wastes his energy trying to fire at a fast, aerial target, Gamera can circle strike at him just as quick from any angle. Come on, Godzilla! Nijire cheered for the lizard-like kaiju. Use that nuclear pulse thingy you do to strike all around you and hit Gamera. The students blinked in surprise at the rather sound strategy from Nijire Heido, often forgetting that the bubbly airhead was actually very intelligent and tactical, as befitting a member of the UA. Big 3. Izuku smiled, cheeks slightly pink, delighted and impressed by Nijire's strategy. Not that he was at all surprised, given how much he hung around the Big 3 the most out of all the students. Eri noticed Izuku smiling at Mama. Niji and Eri smiled, delighted and joyful that her papa was showing interest in one of her mamas. Unable to perceive Heido's advice, Godzilla continued firing at the aerial opponent. Ducking under another atomic breath, Gamera flew toward Godzilla, the latter kaiju catching and blocking the spinning former one. Unable to push back, Gamera retreated backward and out of Godzilla's grip. He flew toward Godzilla again and was once again caught in Godzilla's grasp. However, instead of spinning at him, this time jets fired off from his back holes. Gamera stuck his head and arms out, grabbing Godzilla instead. Slowly but surely, as Gamera angled up, Godzilla was lifted off of the ground, grabbing onto Gamera's shell as the two took to the air. He's airborne, Mount Lady yelled, surprised that the smaller kaiju could actually lift the larger, heavier one into the air. His rocket jets must be aiding his already impressive strength to be able to lift Gojira into the air, Edgeshot responded. As they soared upwards into the sky, the two kaiju roared at each other. Godzilla begins firing atomic breath, wildly, multiple times to no avail. The hell is doing? Kamakiri whined. He's not even hitting him. He's just aiming at nothing. He could just be lashing out wildly like a cornered animal, Itsuka suggested. In any case, he is wasting more energy uselessly firing his atomic breath like that, Azui bluntly stated. Eventually, the two reached space, with Godzilla floating helplessly into the vacuum of the final frontier. Oh, is he going to let him float away? Pony questioned. That would be quite the way to beat Godzilla, having him suffocate in the airless vacuum of space, 13 replied. Then again, we don't know if Godzilla can survive in space too, given he also survived a black hole, and I shudder to imagine a black hole forming on Earth without the planet instantly getting destroyed. Instead of Pony's suggestion, Gamera circled the floating Godzilla. grabbing onto Godzilla's sides from his back. He let his back rocket thrusters fire, the two beginning to fly back down towards Earth. What is he doing? Awais raised an eyebrow. He's trying to turn Godzilla into a living meteorite, Uraraka exclaimed, in fear for her voted fighter's safety. Ha! Yui chuckled. What's so funny, Yui? Suka asked. Yui pointed at the screen. When they were in space, Godzilla roared, Yui mentioned. Nothing can be heard in space. Oh, see. Ha, that actually is clever, Setsuna snickered. The two rocketed back to Earth. They breached the atmosphere and are back in the rainy skies. Lightning sparked around Godzilla's back spikes, attracting the lightning around them. Kaminari, his mouth taped shut, threw his hands up and began cheering. I think that's muffled for he's absorbing the lightning from the sky around them, Zero translated. Gamera noticed, and before he could retaliate, Godzilla fired off a nuclear pulse, knocking Gamera off of him. Yay! Nuclear pulse! Nijire cheered. You called it, Mama Niji. Uri cheered. Record scratch could practically be heard by everyone in their heads. I'm sorry, sweetie, what did you say? Nijire blinked her wide eyes multiple times. I mean Auntie Niji. Eri immediately corrected herself, blushing embarrassingly. That's what I said. Auntie Niji. Hehe. Noticing how embarrassed she was getting, Nijire and the others let it slide and continued back to the video. Though Nijire couldn't get what she believed she heard from Eri out of her mind, nor the sides of her lips from breaking into a wide grin. Another victim of Eri's accidental outburst was Midoriya, as his head now perfectly resembled a tomato. Gamera fell away from Godzilla towards the water below, attempting to slow his descent by spinning in his shell, before crashing into the water. Smart, Miruko smirked. He knew he couldn't stop his fall in time, so he tried getting enough drag or whatever to slow his descent and soften his landing somewhat. As for Godzilla, as the king of the monsters neared closer to the water, he reared his head back and fired another atomic breath toward the water. Is Godzilla trying to slow his fall too? Kuda asked. He sure is, Izuku nodded, writing down the action in his note. Like his analysis where he was shown to be flying. He's using his atomic breath to slow his descent, like how he would lift himself off the ground. Slowing down, he would eventually crash into the water. Thunder rumbled as the waters stilled and nothing happened. Shrinked. /Mwawa. Both kaiju emerge from the water roaring, grabbing each other by their hands and pushing against the other. Okay, that was awesome. Sun grinned. It's like they're about to wrestle, Kirishima exclaimed, pumped up. Gamera would let go of the hold and take a step back, before unleashing another headbutt at Godzilla. Shaking off the hit, Godzilla responded by biting Gamera's left arm. With little effort, Godzilla ripped the limb off, a spray of green blood following. Ayaha! Setsuna cried out in horror. He ripped his arm off, Kuda exclaimed, excited. Izuku cringed, rubbing his own left arm as if it was the one ripped off. Gamera reeled backward in horrible pain, while Godzilla spat out the lifeless limb. Unyielding, Gamera roared up to the heavens, glowing as waves of energy began to coalesce on top of him. He's absorbing the mana of the earth. Bura realized. Yeah, blast that overgrown lizard to smithereens. Tsuna cheered. As Gamera absorbed the planet's mana, Godzilla reared his head back, preparing to fire his atomic breath in return. Ooh, is it a beam struggle that's about to happen? Oyama perked up. If Gamera is doing what I think he's doing, it won't be much of a struggle. Setsuna cackled. Opening his chest, Gamera fired his ultimate plasma mana cannon, the massive beam of golden energy enveloping Godzilla before the kaiju could use his own blast. The blast, as it traveled past the kaiju, devastated the bridge behind him. Shri-re-inked. Godzilla roared as he was enveloped fully in the beam. Yes! /No, were the exclamations from both sides of the voting group. Ah, the light. Dark Shadow cringed and slid behind a flinching Tokoyami. As the screen cleared, Gamera stood, green blood still spilling from his arm socket, before where the bridge was blasted in two and where Godzilla once stood. There was nothing. Mwawaach! Gamera roared in victory. Is that it? Setsuna asked, her grin widening. No, 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 that's bullshit. Bakugo yelled. Godzilla didn't die from that. It looks like there's nothing left of him, Todoroki countered. Almost like he's not even there. Todoroki's eyes widened and he stared into the water. Wait. However, before Todoroki could say anything, Godzilla began emerging from the water behind Gamera, towering over the turtle kaiju with red lightning sparking off his dorsal fins and what looked like magma glowing out of his veins. Sweet Lord! Ibara gasped, completely terrified of the hulking monster. Setsuna's grin began to drop. Sturiongit! Godzilla roared loudly as lightning struck again. Jiro cringed at the extra loud roar, even through her earmuffs. Gamera looked back just as Godzilla grabbed onto him. Gamera retreated back into his shell when Godzilla lifted him up, his entire shell glowing. He's about to self-destruct. Ragdoll picked up and yelled. But wouldn't that kill him? Cozy Eye questioned. He's attempting to take both of them out, Izuku realized. Even if it means he loses, it will still mean that Godzilla doesn't make it out of this and finishes the job. Melissa looked at Izuku, looking at the green-haired cinnamon roll, as if he knew exactly what Gamera was thinking as his counterpart and would do the same in his position, something that brought no small amount of worry and dread from the blonde-haired inventor. As Gamera was preparing to unleash his fireball ejection suicide attack, Godzilla threw the giant turtle into the air above him, spikes turning red and red electricity sparking around him. He fired his red spiral atomic ray. It's the red spiral ray! Mina exclaimed in horror. The beam struck the shell's back, lifting and hovering Gamera's glowing body into the air. Finally, with a final push of energy, the beam pierced through the shell and into the air, Gamera obliterating into pieces of his shell. No! The Gamera voters yelled, but none were as loud or as despairing as Setsuna's wail. Sturiongek! Godzilla roared, triumphant. Yo! The Godzilla voters cheered right alongside their victorious kaiju, Bakugo the most vocal in his bragging and howling. The Gamera voters instead resorted to either sighing in defeat, groaning in disappointment, or just respectfully clapping. Ha ha! Bakugo laughed. Take that shitty doo. Finally, one of your stupid multiple counterparts bit the dust. Technically, didn't his Bucky O'Hare, Harry Potter, and Goku counterparts die? Melissa questioned, an eyebrow raised at the vindictiveness of Bakugo. Those first two didn't count, Bakugo yelled in response. Both of those died fighting another shitty Deku counterpart, and at least Goku died fighting off that OP Superman. So, are you saying that Godzilla isn't OP as well, Kaken? Izuku teased, smirking. He's got you there, man, Kaminari, now free of his tape, said. Zip it, discount Pikachu. Bakugo roared back. Weird arms. Tape him up again. At least I prove my fighters don't always lose. Kaminari let out one final comment before he was taped again. Setsuna moaned and groaned with a comical cloud of depression over her slump over figure. Not only did my Gamera die, but it was also greeny, Setsuna grumbled. At least, Gamera held his own incredibly against that monster. Ibara patted her classmate's back. And that the real Gamera is still out there somewhere, and likely still Midoriya's counterpart. Setsuna lifted her head and smiled at Ibara. Ah, Shio. Setsuna wrapped the girl in a tight hug. Greeny, my favorite guy, Greenette. But you will always be my favorite girl, Greenette. I just hope that favoritism doesn't extend to as much as Midoriya. Ibara snarked, yet smiled all the same. Godzilla continued roaring with whatever was left of Gamera now deep in the water and out of sight. Add Master of the Culinary Arts to his title. 'Cause Godzilla just made turtle soup. Boomstick joke. Koda huffed at that, slightly miffed but let it slide. Gamera may have held the speed advantage, but Godzilla's sheer size and power won this bout, was explained. He's 9 times heavier, Boomstick exclaimed. Plus, while Gamera tanked a city-busting nuke and almost died, Godzilla tanked a similar explosion from a meteorite and didn't even flinch. Looks like you were right about that explosion surviving feat being important, Cementos, Snipe said. Cementos nodded. I was simply lucky to have picked up and mentioned it, the hero teacher replied humbly. Gamera's shell was once pierced by Virus, a physically weaker foe, was recalled. There's no doubt Godzilla could overpower this giant turtle. I guess, Setsuna shrugged, waving her hand in a so-and-so manner. Not like that's a fair comparison. Hell, he's strong enough to match goddamn Thor. Boomstick guffawed in disbelief. Pardon. All Might blinked at the mention of his counterpart. I suppose this means that Godzilla is also a part of that Marvel world that both Spider-Man and Thor are a part of? Pixie Bob asked. Or that one or both of them have similar instances of going through different universes and happen to run into one another, Mandalay suggested. And since Godzilla's atomic breath is composed of pure radiation, not fire, Gamera could not feed off of it, Boomstick clarified. While that may be true, it seemed more like he absorbed the fire from around him when Godzilla was blasting everywhere, Todoroki noted. But in the initial direct hit during that time, and the final red spiral ray attack, Gamera couldn't absorb them, Jirota mentioned. But most importantly, Gamera has a history of winning through retreating, was explained further. He usually takes one round to analyze his foe and another to win the day. On paper, this sounds like a smart idea. But unfortunately for Gamera, Godzilla don't play like that, Boomstick said, showing Godzilla firing an atomic breath at Mecha Ghidorah, who tried to run away. True, Setsuna sighed, admittingly. So, he's kind of like Spider-Man and Batman when it comes to analysis, but Godzilla's ferocity wouldn't allow for Gamera to flee to fight another day, Azui simplified. And this all without Godzilla even resorting to using the burning Godzilla state, which could only further weaken Gamera's chances, given the massive amounts of harmful radiation that Gamera could not absorb, was added. Oh yeah, I forgot they didn't even use the burning Godzilla state, Mirio perked up. Unless the end where he was glowing with red lightning counted, Amajiki noted. Looks like Godzilla put Gamera through living shell, Boomstick punned. Haha, that was clever, Mirio laughed. It's like 2 dogs sniffing each other's butts and saying they smell good, Nijire muttered. Hey, that is rude, Mirio exclaimed in his still chipper voice. And maybe true. The winner is Godzilla, Wizard announced. Respectful claps were made for the death battle. Even if Gamera lost, this was still my favorite death battle yet, Setsuna declared, even more than Yoshi versus Riptor. At least you can accept defeat more gracefully than our explosive Pomeranian here, Mina snickered. Shut up, weird eyes. Next time on Death Battle, Boomstick began to announce. What do you think, sir? All Might asked. Maybe one last preview of the next fight before we leave it for tomorrow? Why, All Might, isn't that positively cruel of you to bait the students' curiosity only to leave them hanging dry until tomorrow? Nizu exclaimed before smiling wide. Let us do it. Sadist, Midnight muttered quietly. Shoo, you don't want to get your pay decreased, Mike whispered back worryingly. Victorious trumpets played on the black screen before color returned in the form of a red and white striped circular shield, with a blue circle and a silver-white star for a center. It transitioned to a man in a red, white, and blue outfit while the American flag waved proudly behind him while fireworks went off. Captain America. Blinks of surprise mixed with awe-filled looks at the muscular patriotic man. Wow, that man looks like the American flag threw up on him, Minetta snickered. Oh, hush you. He looks so cool, Pony exclaimed, stars in her eyes. Captain America, Izuku muttered, writing down his name for the next death battle. Melissa smiled at seeing the patriotic hero, feeling a similar sense of awe that she would normally feel when seeing her Uncle Might in action. Versus. As a silver light passed the word, a quick flash of thunder illuminated the dark screen, showing the imposing silhouette and symbol of a certain brooding dark night. With big bold letters it read, The night returns. It's Batman again. Multiple students exclaimed at the same time. Izuku, Melissa, Shinso, Yaozu, and Kuta all grinned at the return of the quirkless, billionaire, orphan superhero of darkness. Well, this is a first, Nizu hummed. This is the first time that a previous fighter will once more be fighting in another death battle. With another opponent, no less. What about Leonardo and his 2 fights? All Might brought up. Meh, I don't think that counts, Miruko shrugged. It was literally the fight afterward. This is after like what, 10 or so videos? Heh, excited to see other you kick ass again, Eraser? Mike bumped his elbow at Aizawa. Aizawa's response was a blank look at Hisashi. Taken aback by the cold stare, Mike realized. Oh yeah, he muttered. His good mood returned to melancholy, likewise with Namiri. Well, I believe that is all for today. Nizu clapped his paws. We will resume more of this tomorrow after classes. But for now, let us retire for the day. With reluctant nods and groans, the group got up from their seats and began to exit Gym Gamma for their respective destinations. Meanwhile, Jiro felt her phone vibrate. The punk rock girl looked at her phone, wondering who could be calling or texting her so late. She quickly realized it was a text message, beginning with a simple hello. What had Jiro's eyes widened into saucers was the ID of the sender. Zayden. Another message was sent. We need to talk.